The Wild Swans at Coole by William Butler Yeats. About the poet, William Butler Yeats was one of the greatest literary figures of the 20th century. He was an Irish poet and dramatist who was involved with the Irish nationalist movement. His poetry makes extensive use of symbolism and imagery, and his early works draw upon Irish myths and folklore. Some of his best known poems are The Second Coming and Sailing to Byzantium. He was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature in the year 1923.
Have you ever stopped to observe a flock of birds flying? Did you notice the pattern they made to fly together? Read this poem in which the poet sees a soaring flock of swans and remembers an earlier time when he had seen them. This poem was written when Yeats was staying with his friend and benefactor Lady Gregory at her home near Coole Park in Ireland.
Food for thought. Yeats dedicated the poem to Lady Gregory's son Robert, who was a pilot and who was killed during World War I.
The trees are in their autumn beauty, the woodland paths are dry. Under the October twilight, the water mirrors a still sky. Upon the brimming water, among the stones, are 59 swans.
Stanza-wise explanation, Stanza 1. In Stanza 1, we are introduced to the setting of the poem. The speaker in the poem is observing a lake in the autumn twilight. It is so still that it mirrors the sky. There are stones in the water, and upon the lake 59 wild swans are swimming.
The 19th autumn has come upon me since I first made my count. I saw, before I had well finished, all suddenly mount and scatter, wheeling in great broken rings upon their clamorous wings.
Stanza 2 explanation. In this, the speaker realizes that it has been 19 years since he first visited Coole Park and saw the swans. The swans fly up into the air all at once and fly away, circling as they go. It must have been a breathtaking sight.
I have looked upon those brilliant creatures, and now my heart is sore. All's changed since I, hearing at twilight, the first time on this shore, the bell beat of their wings above my head, trod with a lighter tread.
Stanza 3 explanation. After observing the swans, the poet's heart aches with regret. So much has changed in these 19 years since he first observed the swans so long ago. He muses that in those days he trod with a lighter tread. Life did not weigh him down as it does now. He no longer feels carefree, and maybe he has put on a pound or two in those 19 years. That is certainly possible.
Unwearied still, they paddle in the cold. Companionable streams or climb the air. Their hearts have not grown old. Passion or conquest, wander where they will, attend upon them still.
Stanza 4 explanation. In this stanza, the speaker thinks more deeply about the swans and what they mean to him. He observes that the swans do not seem tired or world-weary. They paddle through the cold streams and fly through the air in pairs. Their hearts seem as young and wild and carefree as they were 19 years ago. At that point, it seems that he starts to project some very human-like characteristics on the swans, stating that whenever the swans go, they are still influenced by grand, that is human-like things like passion or the desire for conquest and glory, traditionally youthful characteristics that belie an inner vibrance.
But now they drift on the still water, mysterious, beautiful, Among what rushes will they build? By what lake's edge or pool? Delight men's eyes when I awake some day to find they have flown away.
Last stanza explanation. In this, the speaker observes the swans resting today calmly on the water, and he takes in their majesty. He wonders where they will go after he is gone, knowing that they will continue to fly regardless of what happens to him, and that they will someday build nests by a different lake, bringing joy to different men. The poem ends on this complex, melancholic note. The speaker knows that he will lose these swans, but he also knows that their beauty is everlasting. Let's move, students, to the literary terms. The first one is imagery. Imagery is used to make readers perceive things involving their five senses. You can go through the examples given. The second literary term is metaphor. It is a figure of speech in which an implied comparison is made between the objects that are different in nature. The poet has used swans as a metaphor of love, nature, and imagination. The third one is personification. Personification is used to attribute human qualities to non-human things. Here the swan is personified throughout the poem. For example, they paddle in the cold, companionable streams or climb the air. And moving now to the rhyme scheme, the poem follows the ABCBDD rhyme scheme, and this pattern continues until the end. Thank you.